our own systems, our mind, body, spirit system, our human body with the spirit that's in it and the heart that's in it and everything that makes us human consciousness in a body, it has its own autocorrect. We just get in the way of it. Like we really are meant to be blissful and thriving.
Hey everyone, this is Kim O'Neill from the Every Day is a New Day podcast and live show, and you're listening to the Going North podcast with the hilarious Dom Brightman. Be sure to subscribe to his show so you don't miss any episodes, and remember, every day is always a new day.
It's the host, Dom Brightman, once again, baby, just popping in before the actual episode drops. Today's episode is sponsored by the guest from episode 339.5, Adri Kaiser, with her wonderful, super special, awesome Inner Beauty Yoga online studio, folks. If you click on the link in the show notes, bit.ly, or should I say bit.ly/North Yoga, you'll get full access to the Sacred Movement Studio for $1 for the first 7 days, and then you have the option to subscribe for some monthly good content along with the wonderful app that she has. So definitely check that out in the show notes, because it'll be a great offer for you to add on to what you're about to hear. Because my goodness, this guest in particular, my goodness, Dr. Alison J. We had so much freaking fun on this podcast conversation. Heck, reminded me of the Erica Glessing interview. You might want to check that out too while you're at it, where we probably just laughed ourselves silly for probably most of it, but there's still some good content that awaits. And if you made it this far in the interview, you're definitely gonna love the time that we shared together. So hopefully you got as much out of it as I did, because it was definitely fun in a bunch. So be on the lookout for round 2 if and when she comes back, because it's one of those rare occasions where it's like, oh shoot, I'm gonna have to invite her for round 2 already. It's a rare occasion where during the interview it's like, oh yeah, let's invite them back, but this one in particular, it's like, you know what, fudge it, we're just gonna do it. I'm just gonna speak it into existence already, because funny enough, the backstory about this one, I got pitched this person from a podcasting booking company, and I'm like, okay, so this pitch person knows the audience, knows what the host likes, and I'm like, okay, let's go for it. Then the original date that she thought she had, she didn't have because of some kerfuffle issues with technology, but we ended up having it, and ended up getting some content before a Toastmasters meeting, and voila, I was able to get it. So at the end, it may seem a little abrupt, at least it felt like abrupt. This is one of those 50-minute conversations that felt like 20 minutes. Like, if I didn't have a meeting after this recording, this probably been a 3-hour episode, but alas, it just stuck to 50 minutes. So here she is, the wonderful Dr. AJK herself. Now let's get on with the content, baby, and advance and check out that bit.ly/North Yoga, baby. Help out the show. And today on the Going North podcast, we're bringing some super special, awesome humans from around the globe. Today's no different. Heck, who am I kidding? Today's a different day, folks. A different new day, because we got one heck of a special guest for today. We probably laughed for so freaking long before I even pressed the record button. I had to make sure I start pressing record, or I would have had another moment where the guest kept talking because he had a hearing issue. But you'll hear that episode in a couple weeks. This particular author today, friends, award-winning #1 international best-selling author, folks. And guess what? They're a founder. Folks. They found something. They found lots of wonderful things. This wonderful lady right here found the Vibrational UPgrade System, with her wonderful experience in subtle energies, being a practitioner in that, as well as a natural healer with the holistic approach. And she's got over 20 years of experience teaching multiple things, including yoga, meditation, energy medicine, mind, body fitness, longevity, and holistic health. So let's give it up for the one, the only Dr. AJK. K herself, Alison J. K. How you doing, Dr. A?
Best intro ever. Thank you, Dom. Damn, that was fun. You made what can be so boring, the reading of my bio, into something so light and playful and fun. It makes me think of Playful Cheeks.
That's right, folks. You played with my mental cheeks earlier. We played with each other's mental cheeks before the recording. It was hilarious. It's like, oh, it went from spirit, from random analogies of God knows what. It went from candy to penguins. It was amazing.
Yeah, the flow with this guy. You guys are lucky to be listening to him regularly.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Dr. Allison.
That's right. Dr. Bliss herself, the walking dream come true. That she is. That's right.
Thank you, Dom. We were talking about that. I was like making up a appetizer, but because I don't eat carbs except on my cheat day, I made it like a lettuce appetizer. The lettuce is the base. So the lettuce is joy. It's a base of joy. And the main entree, what if it's like tuna tartare, like a chunk of bliss is the main part of it. And then there's sprinkled the condiment of a little bit of ecstasy. So then Dawn brought in the bread factor and the buns. So we created a bliss sandwich with a little bit of ecstasy with a liner of joy. So joyous buns, playful cheeks. Yeah. A little bit of, I honestly saw when I first looked at Dom's picture when I was booked on this show, I was telling him I saw these energetics of like just playfulness and fun emanating off his cheeks, and with the smile that he has, it pumps his cheeks up and out, and just the energy off of them was just beautiful, just totally playful. Yeah. So that came to pass. We just spent, and I don't normally do this, about 20 minutes before we started, or half an hour even before he hit record. Just laughing. So you guys want more of that? No, I'm taking over the host. I don't want to do that, Tom.
Well, it's you. I wouldn't even be mad. I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. All righty. I am at your command.
No, I do that too much of the time.
Yeah, I have heard that in the past. I checked out one episode. I think it was like 14 minutes long. The host was so confused. I could just tell. He was like, all right, where can we find your site and whatnot? I'm like, oh, all right. He wasn't ready.
Yeah, the Derailed podcast. Yes, I know what you speak. Yeah. I used to have a radio show. I used to interview people on it on Voice America for 2.5 years. I had a weekly show, and I like the passenger seat sometimes, man.
Hey, I don't blame you. It's very hard. Like, heck, funny enough, I probably listened to maybe 5 to 10 of them, and I think we were 3 shy of 100 too.
Of mine? You've listened?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's on Audible.
It's on Audible, the old podcast.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was on Audible. I knew it was on iTunes. Thanks for giving me a heads up about that. Jesus Christ, that's good to know. They recycled that content in so many ways without me even knowing it. I don't know. There were just a lot of shows. If I did it for 2.5 years, 52 and 52 is 104, and then another 6 months of it. So yeah, over 100 shows. A lot.
There we go. Now we know what another A in Allison stands for. A lot. Because she's got a whole lot of goodness, folks. That's right. A whole lot of goodness. Because she's well traveled, I hear. I hear you like to say you're from Canada when you're traveling overseas.
Oh my God, have you really checked my stuff out? Yeah, it's easier. It leads to, it's so, I'll never forget this one elevator. This is more fun than another story I could tell why I do this. We're in the elevator and the person hears my accent. I'm outside the country. I don't even remember right now what country it was. And they're like, oh, are you American? And I don't remember what was going on politically here. I don't think yet we had hit 2016. And I just found it easier to not have any ensuing conversation. And I just said, no, I'm Canadian. And I know that like usually the only follow-up to that, if there is one, is something about hockey, and then it's done. But if like when I said I'm American before, it's been like this whole, I was in Bangkok one time and I had this guy come up to my friend and he overheard us talking and he's like, "You're American." And I didn't say yes, he just plowed right in saying he was from a certain Eastern European country and they had a civil war recently. And he's went into a litany of how we Americans take democracy for granted. And yeah, after that, I just found it easier sometimes to lie and say I'm Canadian on the international circuit.
Yeah, it is definitely true. Like even buddy of mine mentioned how he actually was traveling. I think it was in France, and it was the same time that they had the darn Sandy Hook shooting, and he was like, he kept on getting flack the whole trip. He was like, "What is wrong with you Americans?" I'm like, he was like, "Dude, it ain't my fault." Like, I can't take the blame for that.
The number one rule for France. Like the easier it is, the less you talk about being American, or even wear a sweatshirt that has some sports team or American university on it. You definitely don't do that. France. Dress up and shut up.
Now that could be a social media post. That's right.
But the interesting thing is they gave us our revolution. We modeled it after them. You know, there's been such camaraderie between our two countries for so long. It's funny how sometimes arrogant they are to us nonetheless. Yeah, I don't mean to make a sweeping generalization about an entire nation of people. I'm sorry if you're French. I've had many French clients, so and I love parts of France. There's some incredible history in that country. The southeastern part where the Knights Templar have a bunch of their old castles, the whole territory where a lot of, like, when they were wealthy and running the pilgrimages, they were protecting the pilgrims, and they were like the founders. You remember American Express travelers checks?
Oh my goodness, that's way back, the good times.
Yeah, I hear that. And I remember when I transitioned out of that, I just started being able to use my ATM in another country. And I was like, oh my God, I don't need this pile of American Express travelers checks. Not that I had a pile at that time, but I don't need this booklet of travelers checks anymore. And transitioning out of that was mildly revolutionary. But yeah, Knights Templar started the system. That's what we experience as American Express travelers checks. So there's cool castles in southeastern France. There's some good megaliths there, Carnac in northwestern France. And supposedly the historical tracings is Mary Magdalene, after Christ got crucified, was put on a boat across the Mediterranean over to France and lived out her life in a cave in France. And there's a basilica there now dedicated to her in southeastern France as well. It's cool. There's some stuff to see there. So I don't mean to bash the country, sorry.
Yeah, we do have some listeners in France, so don't worry, you should be okay. You should be A-okay. No pun intended, since last name is K.
First initials A. I've never actually thought about that. Thanks, Dom.
That's right.
Actually, AJK. A couple letters away before it.
Oh. Ooh, there we go. That's right. Instead of every kiss begins with K, it's every bliss begins with Dr. K, right?
Every list?
Oh, every, I guess, moment of bliss. That was probably more complete.
Hey, you're giving me like a tagline, Dom. I didn't know I was going to get that with being on your show. Thank you. Can you say it again?
That's right, folks. The wonderful AJK herself, the good doctor. Every moment of bliss begins with the bliss master herself, Dr. K. That's right.
Man, you have a good DJ voice.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Now I just need to add another middle name so I can claim DJ status for some reason.
What is
it? Actually, know what? That'll be too much paperwork. Never mind.
Yeah, podcast host is easier, isn't it?
Yeah, most of the time. Most of the time, usually. I'd say 98% of the time, usually. There's that small 2%. where people sometimes ghost on you even after they book a time. And then you're like, what the fudge? I did this research for nothing.
Yeah, you are one of the most well-researching podcast interviewers I've ever been on, and I've been on hundreds of these by now. So thank you for that. It makes it a lot more fun and lighter and easier, Dom. So I bet you are disappointed when somebody does that. I hope it doesn't happen frequently. That's really unprofessional.
Oh, nah, not ever since I upgraded the Calendly account to include text message reminders.
Ah,
It's only happened once. Actually, oh wait, actually it happened twice. It happened twice because the person put in the wrong email. They were so used to
I know.
Google auto-filling things that it auto-filled the one time she jacked up her email with a couple missing letters. But we're able to still do the
Oh
interview later though.
man. Yeah, I was just talking to my brother yesterday, my older brother, I have three, about artificial intelligence and the benefits and the hindrances of autocorrect. Like, man, it feels like a beast of its own, autocorrect, that one wrestles with if they choose to. Autocorrect. Could you imagine, in relating it to what I sense people might want to hear is our own systems, our mind, body, spirit system, our human body with the spirit that's in it and the heart that's in it and everything that makes us human consciousness in a body, it has its own autocorrect. We just get in the way of it. Like, we really are meant to be blissful and thriving. That's the second book's title, Vibrational UPgrade, A Conspiracy for Your Bliss, Easing Humanity's Evolutionary Transitioning or Transition during these spiritual awakening times. I think that's the whole subtitle. But Conspiracy for Your Bliss is the point. Yeah, from what I've seen in clearing out people's back of the house consciousness, like the un and subconscious, and how that connects with the chakras, which means wheel from Sanskrit to English, and it turns the more open it is, and it's the intersection of the mind, the body, and the spirit. So I can access all levels of the mind, the body, the area that chakra relates to, and the spirit. So there's past lives and karmic stuff in there I can access when I work through the chakras. And once they're more and more cleared, and I'm actually more able to focus less on clearing out blockage and more on activating potential, which is my happy joy zone. Not that I don't like helping people get free, but sometimes, there's such fascination with blocks that it can get like overly focused on. So once someone's activated enough, the natural aspects contained within each chakra within our system, because we have 7 main ones, they really are designed for bliss. Like the solar plexus chakra has inner child in it, and it has joy in it, and it has manifestation power in it. These are some of the aspects the solar plexus covers. And we are designed to have a healthier system the more we follow our joy with what we're manifesting out into the world. If we're not honoring our joy with what we're manifesting out into the world, then that solar plexus, that power center, will be less functional. So that's how I come away with the understanding it's a conspiracy for our bliss. Like, it's dysfunctional if we're not joyously doing what we want to be doing. It's blocked. Isn't that wild that the creator did that?
Yeah, the good kind of wild. And I love the fact they're able to tie that in with autocorrect is because it's so true. It's like, heck, forgot who it was who said it's like Mother Nature's got you covered. Like, our system's already built to really deal with illness, disease, and really just all this other negative stuff out there and defend against it. But sometimes we like really don't give ourselves enough credit. We allow ourselves to be trained by a lot of dogma that's out there in a certain way where we kind of lose the way that we've been naturally given.
Yeah. Yeah. This is even a part of what you and I were talking about earlier, like where there's authority figures historically, whether they're doctors or they're priests or government officials, where we've been taught to give our power away, Will we rely on the doctor to tell us what's going on in our body? Will we rely on the church to be the intermediary between us and the divine? And it has really subtle effects on people, like the levels of courage and confidence to go for what they really want to be going for. That unconscious deference to something outside of us is going to be making our choices. We don't really have the right to completely sit in our seat of, or a throne of power, connected to our own divinity and our own divine guidance, and choose for ourselves. So beyond even just the beauty of the body and what you just mentioned, it's also just learning and allowing ourselves to trust ourselves and to trust our own system's wiring. And when you're forcing, when it's false, the texture of this isn't guidance, this is just my mind being attached to a desire, versus, wow, this inspiration that I'm feeling, this lightness that I'm feeling, this soaring that I'm feeling, this is genuine, soul aligned, heart uplifting yesness.
So yesness indeed. There you go, another new word from Dr. A. Yesness. That's right.
Yeah, this is a new word. You knew one would come out. It wasn't a combination of two different ones either. It was just the creation of a new one. Yesness. How great is that? Like I'm sitting and smiling with that word.
There you go. All the flying. That's right. Flying on nothing but air without the wings.
But it has like inherent wings to it. Yesness.
Oh yeah, that's right. It'll be like I'm your wingman.
All right. I'll take a wingman. Yeah. Wingman. Heck yeah.
That's right. Won't even be no buffaloes involved either.
White or black buffaloes? Because that white buffalo is a really good symbol of abundance. I'll take some white buffaloes.
You know what? Let's go with nature's cocaine. The color is snow. White buffaloes.
Have you heard that Lakota Sioux story? White buffalo calf woman?
Actually, no.
That's where it comes from. So there were these two warriors, and white buffalo were really rare on the plains up there where the Lakota Sioux come from. And a white buffalo came out, and both of them had to rub their eyes out of the morning mist, thinking they were seeing things. And it turned into a beautiful woman when they stopped rubbing their eyes and looked again. A beautiful woman dressed in the traditional garb coming towards them. And the first warrior immediately went on his knees and asked to like kiss her hand and marry her and be with her, and was just really all full on. And that one got turned into air. The second warrior, who was more laid back and honoring of the presence of this exquisiteness, this isn't meant to be like male female romantic at all, where he was appreciating the beauty and the I want to say natural abundance, where he was just appreciating the divinity manifested in such a beautiful form. That one then watched as this woman became white buffalo calf woman. So he actually married the woman, and the white buffalo was an apparition that ended up symbolizing for the Lakota Sioux abundance, not love, not beauty, but abundance, because a white buffalo became known as the symbol of a good harvest if a white buffalo shows up. So the second man appreciated the luck in the divinity that he was being shown. And the first man just overlooked it and got totally attached to it. Kind of greedy, grabbing at it. And so he got puffed into just air. I may have not gotten that story perfectly correct, but that's the bottom line gist of it. So white buffalo calf woman, she's a frequent disembodied spirit that when working within the Native American culture, especially the Lakota Sioux, that is a known symbol. So why did you bring up buffalo, Dom?
Oh yeah, simple. Because I was like wingman, and then I was like, oh yeah, buffalo wings. Yeah, for the folks who still like to not be vegans.
Do you know the first time I cheated after first becoming a vegetarian in 93 was with buffalo wings? The last time I ate meat. And the only time I cheated after I first became, I couldn't let go of the buffalo wings yet. So my older brother and I went out for some extra spicy buffalo wings. And then that was the finale with meat for me. Yeah. Yeah.
So you
Lots of,
thought I knew that story too, huh?
I had no idea. I'm learning just in this brief amount of time, your transitions there. Like I just didn't have any idea.
Yeah, because I was just saying just because it went together to make a nice corny joke for later. Little did I know it would lead to a magical story. So my goodness, so that, if I'm not mistaken, so that makes you the only girl and the youngest of four, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm second, and then there's like a 6-year gap, and then there's 2 more boys. So I'm the only girl and second eldest.
So she's made of tough stuff, folks.
Huh. I actually, you know what's funny, Dom? I'm seeing through working with my masterminders, ones who I do the most intimate direct work with, and the ones who have sisters. It's an observation that comes out of seeing this repeated times. There is a difference between women raised with only brothers and women raised with sisters. There's like this increased bitchiness and competition with women who have had sisters that I don't find with women who've only had brothers for the most part. It's really interesting. Like I only look into sisterhood. Like I've never been like the mean girls or the catty girl, or you just don't do that with sisters. You just don't. Sisterhood is sacred. You honor the fellow sister. And it's not ever about competition. It's about rising up. Not in a feminist way, but just appreciating what it means to be like containing the magic that's within our bodies as a female, in a female body. You'd never want to hurt that or diminish that. As a woman who honors women rather than, am I prettier than you? What do I have up over on you? Kind of a thing. What do you have for siblings?
Older brother, 2 older sisters.
Oh, you're the youngest of 4.
Yeah.
The baby. Oh, I wonder if that's part of why your cheeks have that fullness of playfulness in them coming off your facial cheeks there. The smile and the joy and the playfulness. That could be related. How was it for you as the youngest?
Not so bad. Everybody was advanced, so it was like there was a nice, wonderful gap. Brother was a good 15, 16 years older than me, so it was like, oh wow, okay. I'm all good then. Like I'm all good. Just I was literally the baby and had to grow up fast since my parents were basically senior citizens by the time I showed up. So basically I had to grow up fast, hanging around the older crowd, still being a little young tot, a little chocolate drop, a little Hershey kiss.
Yeah, that sense of babying in protection, that's on your cheeks too. That makes sense. I could read that in your energy. It's sweet.
That's right. Sweet and good enough to eat. But yes, go ahead.
Well, what would you say? How does that give you, I don't want to say an edge over, but so you must be different than your siblings, right?
Oh yeah, because I was able to see a rotary phone, but I can also use a smartphone, even though I'm not a huge fan of them. I mean, they're great, but they're like big distraction machines if you let them be.
Oh my God. Yeah. I still can't wrap my brain around the idea of sleeping with your phone and waking up and that's the first thing you do.
Oh God, it's hell on your eyes too.
Yeah, I use those special blue light glasses when I'm on the computer. I'm on it all day. I mean, that's why I still like hardcover books, physical books, get off the screen as much as possible.
That's what I'm talking about. So speaking of books, if I'm not mistaken, you have 3 or 4. Having a brain freeze moment here.
It's okay. Fourth was just recently released January 21st. So it's okay.
The Dragon Master Creatrix. That's right. So what led to that title? Because that sounds freaking cool. Cooler than 5 cucumbers.
Well, the times that we're in right now that I started writing about and I learned about in my Voice America show, the December 21st, 2012 galactic alignment, right? You talked about that when we were just starting, remember?
Oh yeah, can't forget that year.
So the spiritual awakening that started then, that's 2012 to 2032, that I started finding out about and interviewing experts on for my Voice America radio show. That was a lot of that's in my second book, Vibrational Upgrade. And then one of the things that I came to understand after 2016 or so was after writing that book. No, it was before writing that book. I was seeing this pattern on people between their heart chakra and their throat chakra with clients when I was doing one-on-ones with them. And I came to call something, I was seeing like this new, almost like a fountain, like from the heart up to the throat. And I didn't know what this was. And I was seeing it on so many of my clients, this thing that wanted to get activated and opened that was new in the chakra column to me. Now, I'm a yoga teacher trained in India. And I didn't hear anything about this. So it was something I was discovering in these spiritual awakening times, awakening. And I came to understand it was to connect the heart to the throat chakra. And the throat chakra is where we make our choices from, where we co-create our lives with the divine and our divine guidance from. And so if that's the case, I came to call it the co-creators channel, because the heart, I know so many people think intuitive development happens, intuition happens at the third eye, psychicness happens at the third eye, but that's just such newbie and old school thinking, because it's as simple, keeping it simple now. It's as simple as if you're uplifted about something, a new idea that's uplifting your heart. Both the traditional Chinese and the yogic cultures believe the spirit resides in the heart, right above the heart chakra. So if your heart's uplifting about something, that's actual guidance intuitively. Do that. Say yes to that. Live in your yesness to that thing that you're getting uplifted about. So between that, like then climbing up like a reverse waterfall. But when I say climbing up, I don't mean forcing or efforting. It's just naturally wanting to upsurge to the throat chakra to help us make choices that lead to more of that upliftment. So the times that we're in are all about stepping into our power as a co-creator and less of that victim-like mentality, whether it's to those authority figures or to that upbringing or to any external authorities. Not that you just live randomly hurting others while you co-create whatever you feel like. It's obviously not that, but in a sensible way, that is where the word creatrix comes from. Really stepping into the mastery of living your life from your throne of empowerment and centered and aligned. And Dragon Master is a part of what I certify people in my vibrational upgrade system certifications that happen in my mastermind program on retreats. And it's a really cool level to get to, because there's 2 levels before that. So my students first get trained and work with me clearing themselves, and then they step into being able to clear themselves, and then they step into the second level, being able to clear others. And then they step into the third level of being able to not only clear others, but teach others and attune others how to do that themselves. So the next level is Dragon Master level. And that's when the dragons come in. That means you've purified enough to be a more clear, aligned consciousness where you can actually serve the collective. And the dragons love to help with serving humanity in general. So dragons are very much a part of my field, but we have to do some stuff ahead of time so that the dragons will feel invited. It's almost like, so Dom, what do you think of the word initiation?
Initiation. I think of fraternities and sororities. And sometimes playfully, it's like, oh, something silly to welcome people to a new group.
Okay, so going beyond this, that what is, well, not even going beyond that, in that, what's implied? Is it that you have to get through something?
I wouldn't say you have to get through something. It's just, I'd have to say it's probably more of a welcoming act or a welcoming party, if anything else. It's more of a welcoming activity.
I love that definition, Dom, or description. So I've been playing with that word initiation for a good bunch of years now, because it seems to me, from what I've seen, like if someone's going to step into the co-creation power that we each inherently have and have the ability to manifest what we desire consistently, we don't just get given that. We do, and that's when you end up manifesting stuff in your life you don't want. But when you start on the path of intentionally manifesting, like maybe working with the law of attraction, and which I refer to as the law of magnetics, because that's actually the universal law that LOA is based on, you start to work that manifesting muscle. I feel like I've seen, in order to really be able to manifest in an aligned way what you're actually desiring and having it show up that way, and even better than what you were intending and desiring, it seems like there's some level of a welcoming into a new level that has to happen in order to be given that power. Like in order to be trusted with that power, so that you don't necessarily, like, it just doesn't, the light that I channel on behalf of helping others, and if we want to call it healing, it has an intelligence of its own. And I teach my students this. So like if somebody's coming to me for chronic back pain and they start having their knee worked on, and I'm not working on their knee, I'm just directing the energy at the relevant location to where the back pain is. Why is their knee all of a sudden getting worked on when it's the back that they came to me for? Well, it's because the energy has a divine intelligence of its own. It knows how to prioritize, and it prioritizes what to go to first to get that healing. So it's kind of like, to be able to activate that level of subtle energy or light on your behalf and on behalf of your desires, there has to be a certain level of purity reached in order to have that up leveling in power. So initiation seems to happen through some kind of, if somebody chooses proactively, then it's like a welcome party. If somebody doesn't choose proactively, then it shows up like a crisis. And then they go look for somebody like me who can help them understand the bigger picture behind the crisis. And they gradually clear out so that they can get over that crisis, but then they end up tapping into this whole other part of themselves. I like to do the work when somebody doesn't need it to heal a crisis. I like to do it when somebody is looking to live up to their true potential, because they feel like they've always been meant for something bigger, or there's something bigger they're supposed to be accessing in their business now, and they just don't know the how. They don't know how to access it, but they sense and know there's something more. That's my joy zone where I like to work. But the conditioning thus far seems to be for the former. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, it definitely makes sense indeed, especially with the whole piece where it's like, oh, it's making it easier to work with people, and heck, you like to work with folks who really don't want to be about the struggle, because I'm pretty sure you've heard the buzz phrase at one point, the struggle is real, where it's like, oh yeah, all right, that is not for me. Like, I want to be where the bliss is real.
Mm. Have you heard me say in any of your research, if you're addicted to the struggle paradigm, I'm not the right mentor for you?
There we go. That's the wording I was looking for, because I think that was like in, I think that was probably one of your books too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was in Reasonable Dragons, at least, if not both, the last two, Reasonable Dragons and Dragon Master Creatrix. Yeah, and it's that struggle paradigm is so conditioned into us in so many different ways. And it's so ironic to me. Recently, I saw this post by my business coach, and it's along the lines of the $500 client versus the 50K client. The 500 laughing, the $500 client, there's like paraphrasing of what they come in saying they want. basically, I want you to change everything and we need to do this because I'm paying you. You need to fix this and heal this and make this better. And it needs to happen now. So there's a lot of demands underneath the $500 client. Under the $50K client, all that it's said from them is money sent.
Yep, I've seen that one a couple times. It's freaking hilarious.
You know the one I'm talking about, yeah?
Yep, I know exactly which one you're talking about too.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because there's some relationship to initiation. It feels like that victim mentality keeps people in the struggle paradigm. And I know that's not a bombshell, but the energetics of it are fascinating to me because it's almost like the hamster on a wheel and they can't get off the wheel of victim mentality because they're not working proactively, choosing for themselves or recognizing the power of their choice to choose something new, even if it doesn't feel comfortable, because it's not going to when you go for change. They need that crisis to catalyze going for further evolution, whereas the other version does what I already said. So it's like this perpetuation of the victim mentality that keeps people in that relative sense of like addiction or repetition or looping, like or skipping like a CD to struggle. And a lot of the times there's a trauma that needs to be cleared, because trauma has that kind of texture of looping, repetition, and it's definitely not rational. Trauma doesn't get fielded by the rational mind because it's traumatizing. The ego mind, the rational mind can't field it. So it gets lodged into the subconscious. But 85% of our choices every day that we're making are from our unconscious and subconscious, not the conscious mind. So most of our life is created from the thoughts we don't hear. And that's where I spend my time clearing, to get people more free and to get off that hamster wheel of perceiving that everything is a struggle, or that thing has more power than me. I can't change, or I have no choice because of that thing that then somebody points to and names. So whether it's victim mentality to something outside of us, like an abusive husband, or it's victim mentality to a limiting belief inside of us, it's still victim mentality to something that has more power over our own heart being uplifted and making a new and different choice and continually evolving and uplifting into more and more bliss. It really is meant to be that way. It's so backwards in society. And you know what else is interesting to me that I came across recently is, in society, it seems like we reach to the lowest common denominator, like those victims at the bottom. And in nature, it's the exact opposite. Only the strongest survive. And that which is flourishing is given more attention. Like the tallest tree gets the most sun. Nature doesn't tend to the victims, so to speak, of the smaller trees. So it's not so much a survival of the fittest as what is the strongest is honored in nature. And in our societal organizing, depending on the society, what is weakest gets, like, what is that saying? The squeakiest tire, the loudest tire gets.
The squeakiest wheel gets the grease.
Yeah, that. So, I mean, it's parallel to like how frequently rather, do you go to parties or gatherings, non-COVID time, or even on Zoom in COVID time, and the gig is to complain, whether it's about politics or not enough money or not enough fill in the blank. And how frequently when you're in a gathering, is it copacetic or cool or okay or acceptable for you to talk about how great of a week you had, how much money you're making, how good life is? Like there's that there is that unspoken obligation to have compassion for suffering. This is radical because of course we're supposed to be compassionate. But where that compassion may be misplaced, what is it doing for the person who can't get out of their own way? It's commiserating with them and acknowledging their reality. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely got to avoid those people. That's like having a whole entire pity party. It's like, yeah, let's celebrate our pity. Let's celebrate together. They say misery loves company. Well, positive people love company too, but we're gonna forget about them. See, let's get in this misery commiseration. But the good news is we're not about that. We're not about that. So yes, indeed. So coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive, and that is if you're to wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but this time in the current year of 2021 with all of your attained bliss, bliss, that's funny, all of your magical attained wisdom and knowledge classified as bliss, what advice would you give to yourself?
Follow your intuition.
So for those who want some of that good karma, aka your wonderful products and services, what's the best way for folks to keep up with what you're doing?
VibrationalUpgrade.com. That's my website. Read Dragon Master Creatrix if you're advanced. It's a story of a woman going to get trained in energy medicine. Some of the lessons I was just alluding to and speaking directly to. There's some very advanced concepts in there. The second half of each chapter, after being story form on retreat, is questions and answers, done in kind of like a yogic guru fashion. Not calling myself a yoga guru, but the Q&A, where the student asks a question and the yogic guru spouses wisdom for pages on end. Some of it's like that. But the third book, Reasonable Dragons, is really good for a complete picture of how you could best help yourself have evolution and ease with it without requiring crisis. And then Vibrational Upgrade, A Conspiracy for Your Bliss, my second book, is really if you want to know more about spiritual awakening. So those are my books on Amazon, and Reasonable Dragons is on audible.com. If you want, there's a lot of stuff that's changing right now, but there is, if you go to my homepage, vibrationalupgrade.com, there is an intuitive development webinar that's there. And then there's a success clearings and activations MP3 that people rant and rave about. They love it. Lots of good shifts from that one, clearing the most common blocks that cause people to stuff down their levels of success, and activations to help you allow yourself to go for more success. So there's some good places to start.
Yeah, if not great places indeed. So there you have it, folks. Head over to vibrationupgrade.com. Check out all Alison's web. Check out the Reasonable Dragons audio book too, because her lovely voice is behind that book indeed. So definitely check it out, like 5 library books. So any parting words before we close up the magical shop for this round anyway?
For this round anyway. Yeah, I feel like there's people who are looking for more confidence in themselves. And we talked about this before we went into recording. And I feel like there's this idea of, if you're going to go for more in your life, you're supposed to look and feel like this. I don't mean physical looks. I mean, you look like this because this is how you're feeling. And when you go for more in your life, it's not typically exuberance. It's the ego mind naturally, reflexively resisting the unknown and the new. So just have the awareness of expecting that inner resistance when you're going for more, rather than letting it stop you. No, it's not personal. Know that it's just a function of the way our systems are designed, still from the days of being in the jungles and do I fight or go into flight here in face of the unknown.
Hey there, buddy. Looks like you made it to the end of this episode. Since you made it to the end of this episode, do both of us a favor and stop being greedy and share this episode with your friends and your fellow podcast lovers, especially those who have book clubs and want to listen to the authors who write some amazing books.